Here at ICMA TV, we are taking a look at the big issues that are facing city and county managers across the country. And today I am joined by Bob O'Neill, Jan Perkins, and Valerie Lemmie, and we are going to discuss civility. So I look forward to a patient and spirited conversation today. So the first question, I feel like I know what civility is, but define civility. What does that mean, Valerie?
For me, it's mutual respect, that you treat people as an adult and they in turn treat you as an adult. You may not agree with the issue, but you don't disagree with the person, you agree with the ideas and the comments. And you frame the conversation in me terms rather than they or them or others. And so that it's personalized. And you give people a little grace when they are talking to you, and you have an understanding of their circumstance. And sometimes that helps an awful lot in appreciating why they may approach you in certain ways.
Sounds like you really have to enact some empathy, and I heard respect, understanding where someone's coming from. Does it mean something similar to you?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's also treating people the way you really want to be treated, which is all about respect and understanding that different people have different points of view, and that's perfectly okay. And honoring that, those points of view can contribute to something even better than just one person's point of view. But civility is really about that respect.
We all are very different people who have been shaped by our upbringing and things that have happened. So it is important to understand where everyone's coming from. So what about you, Bob? How big of a challenge is civility today?
I think it's an enormous challenge, particularly for the people who are here at this conference. I think we've lost the principles of the public dialogue it's such a powerful dynamic of a democratic society, is to be able to differ, and we resolve those differences by a conversation or by voting. And what we've done is personalize every issue to the point where you're no longer talking about the substance, you're talking about whether you believe me or not. And so, for the folks in this room, it is a huge effort, because at the heart, the people in ICMA are about the preservation of democratic institutions and principles. I mean, at the end, that's what we do. And so, I just take my hats off to them every day, trying to find a place and a time where people can have a civil dialogue on differing issues. And, that's okay. We can differ.
We can differ. So are you hearing that from your colleagues as well, Jan, the challenges that they're facing?
Yes, and the problems of civility are both from the public and from the governing bodies. People who are elected to office sometimes are very uncivil, both to each other and to staff. And that erodes that democratic perspective. So it's not just from the public. So the challenge that a city manager has or a county manager has is being able to work up with the governing body as well as work out with the public. And that's not easy.
It's not easy, but that's why we're speaking with you all today, because you really do have a rich understanding. And so from your perspective, how do you face this challenge?
I think you have to remember there are two aspects of it. One, we no longer teach civic education. And so there's not a place for people to learn how to operate in the public square, how to have dialogue, how to have conversation, how to respect people. And many of the role models they see, you mentioned elected officials and others, nationally and locally, are not the role models that are advocating civility. They are the ones who are ranting and often raving about a particular issue. And sometimes it's even more theater. It may not be about a particular issue. And so what we have with young people is they don't have much of a venue to know what to see. But I've also come to appreciate that it is what's going on in your community. But if people have anger and they're frustrated and they don't know where to turn, where to go, the only venue they see is yelling and being uncivil, then that's what they will do.
You're talking about getting back to basics and respect. And so from your point of view, Bob, how do you continue to face this challenge, sort of going off of what Valerie said?
Well, I would often defer to Valerie and Jan on that topic, but the thing that I think we have to get more creative about is the design of the public discourse. The typical public hearing or the typical council meeting lends itself to the screaming. It lends itself to the play, the platform, whereas smaller groups organized differently where you can have a face-to-face conversation. And unless your mother didn't raise you properly, you're probably not going to do the kind of things that you can do in a large public hall and just scream from the back, right? So I think thinking creatively about how we structure those conversations is a really important element of trying to get past where we are in the screaming and the yelling.
So we have to get creative. You were about to say something, Jan.
I 100% agree with that. We have to get out into the community, have those smaller conversations, and the saying that people don't trust people they don't know, I think gives rise to this incivility. I think we need to have, whether it's our city staffs, county staffs, the leadership, and the elected officials, dialogue in those small groups. I just, we need to have that.
Yeah, one experience is watch the community use the neighborhood watch groups for the basis of the conversation. So you're in someone's living room. Yeah. And you're going to behave very differently in your neighbor's living room than in a public hearing. And so they got a much more rich conversation about the issue, and they actually learned something from each other, which you can't do in the environments which are the statutory way we go about doing this.
So are there some positive stories? Because I always look for the light, and there always is good, that is out there. Are there some positive things that you've seen happening when it comes to the public discourse? Much like you just said, talking about using young people as a voice.
So I would say, just for myself, to be an African American and in a community where the Black community was upset about the relationship with the police, and I was picketed. I'd walk downtown and they'd say, "No justice, no peace." And so for me, it became, it is not personal. This is an institutional issue. I wasn't from Cincinnati, but this was a concern. And one way of making certain I knew it was a concern was to make sure that it was in my face all the time. And so not personalizing something that is really about the way the government works, and then doing my job to make certain that we responded differently, we reacted differently, and we changed those things that were wrong and could be corrected.
You really had a perspective there of the bigger picture of it all.
And working with the police department and working with the police chief, there were many meetings that we went to in the community where I'm holding on to the chief's thigh to say, don't say anything. This is a time for people to get their anger out, not for you to try to justify what happened. So sometimes you have to really let people get anger out when they're tough issues that have been simmering for a long, long time and have not been addressed. And so it's situational. And you have to be, as city manager, cognizant of the situation and what strategies work best.
Every community is so different, and that's why I feel like ICMA it's so really inspiring to see how each community tackles different issues, how you can shine. And so, Bob, from your perspective on the subject of civility, why is leadership so important?
Well, first of all, it takes courage to do what Valerie just described. It takes courage to put yourself in the arena and be the catalyst for positive conversations. It's easy just to let it go, right? Or to, we haven't talked much about social media, but I mean, it's difficult to sit there every day and see what's on social media and ignore it, right? It's just really difficult, but yet the folks who are in this auditorium today are people who put themselves in the arena. They try to find positive solutions. They want to build better communities, and they're willing to put their neck on the line in order to try to create that environment. And these are special people.
That is courage, and it's inspiring. Respect, empathy, inspiration. This has been a really enlightening discussion, and this community here that you have created, continues to tackle these issues, and all the folks here that you are interacting with at ICMA is going to continue to be on the front lines in their communities. So I really appreciate this conversation about civility. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to share. Thank you.